Hello, beautiful people. It is me, Dr. Sylvia Bowley, here for another episode of Embrace You Hot Topics in Weight Loss, where we provide a safe space where you can not just get the facts about weight loss, but also understand the feelings and validate the feelings behind it. Now, if you're new to this space or you're returning, welcome back. Please make sure you type in the chat where you're checking in from. We're so happy to have you. And of course, let me introduce myself again for those who don't know me. So I am Dr. Sylvia Bowley. I am a dual board certified integrative obesity expert. I am a best-selling author and the founder of Embrace You, where we specialize in combining self-love with personalized science to help you live lighter in body, mind, and spirit. We know it's not all about the numbers on the scale, but also the emotions and the spirit behind it. And we help you get really crystal clear on that. And I am always excited to be here with you all. Whoop, whoop. It is Juneteenth week. We kicked off this week with Juneteenth Freedom Day. I had a phenomenal time celebrating here in the DMV area. That's where I'm checking in from. Well, I'm traveling today, which is why you're watching this way. But if you are, let me know where you're checking in from and how did you celebrate Juneteenth? Well, what I did was I was a part of a festival here for one of the historically Black community where I live in Montgomery County, Maryland, and it was the annual Scotland Juneteenth Festival. I got to meet people who had like 5 descendants from freed enslaved people. And it was so awesome. But I also hosted an Embrace You table on sugar, freedom from sugar, and freedom from extra fat. So I was joined by a phenomenal high school student volunteer. She and her mom volunteered, and we all volunteered for this event together. And so shout out to Mila and Sharon. Hey y'all, if you're watching. But we had a great time just dispelling some myths and some facts. And you know what? I was like, oh my goodness, we had like over 100 people come through, ask great questions. I was like, you know what? I need to share this with my Embrace You Hot Topics community on BDO, on blackdoctor.org. So that's what we're going to do today. So are y'all ready? Type yes if you're ready in the chat, and let's go and let's do this. Okay. So first and foremost, what we're going to be talking about today is freedom from sugar. Freedom from sugar. And I'm not talking about total restriction dieting. Y'all know how I feel about this thing. I have lost 60 pounds, kept it off for the last 8 years, and doing that not by dieting, but making it a lifestyle, right? So I want to empower you with the body, mind, spirit lifestyle tools that you need to do the same thing, because I came from a background where I grew up from age 15 going from extreme overeating and then to extreme dieting and restriction. And that yo-yo does not help you. It confuses your body. It confuses the hormones in your body. So we're not going to do that. All right. So when I talk about freedom from sugar, I want you to define what your own freedom is, what that looks like for you. And you know, I wouldn't be me if I didn't share with you some facts. And how we're going to do it is through a body, mind, spirit. I want to let you know what those root causes are that's driving you, because why you eat something is just as important as what you eat. I'm going to give you some tips. Okay, y'all, you know, I'm so deep and I can get really deep and everything, but I am going to give you some tips so that you can start today your journey to freedom from sugar, whatever that looks like, and freedom from sugar cravings in particular, because it's that craving that drives it. So now just some fun facts. Okay. How much sugar does the average American, I know people are checking in from all over the world. Welcome, 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 wherever the world you're checking in. But here in the US where I live, guess how much added sugar? So we're not just talking about like sugar that's naturally in food, but the added sugar, meaning that's put into food when it's processed. Guess how much added sugar is put in that the average American eats every day? And most of it comes from drinking beverages. So, all right, I'm telling you. So in teaspoons, 17 about 17 teaspoons of sugar added sugar is what people to have each day. Now, how much are we is recommended that we have to not just maintain a healthy weight, but to maintain our overall health, to make sure that we don't develop things like heart disease, diabetes, other forms of insulin resistance, that we don't worsen our mental health conditions. How much is recommended for that? So the breakdown is different based on your biological sex. So 5 teaspoons for women, 5 teaspoons. And remember, this is how much most of us are getting. And then men get a little bit more, and it is 9 teaspoons for men. So that's the recommended amount of sugar. So as you can see here, most people are taking a lot more, a lot more. All right, so what we're going to do today is talk about how can we reduce that, because this sugar is weighing on us, y'all. It's weighing on us because all that extra sugar, all this extra sugar, when the body doesn't know what to do with it, if your muscles don't need to use it and your brain doesn't need to use it, the liver, which stores some of our sugar, can't do it anymore. Guess what happens to it? It gets stored in the body's deep freezer. Fat. So that is why we need to, if you're on a weight loss journey, on a weight reduction journey, or a weight maintenance journey, cutting back your sugar can be really important. Now, it's kind of sneaky. So what we did at this at the fair that I'm telling about, the festival, and one of the main demos that I usually do with Embrace You is the sugar shocker demo, because most of our sugar is coming from, guess where? Beverages. So what we're drinking, what we're consuming, it always amazes people how much sugar is in their drinks that they commonly drink. So today, what I want you to do is, maybe you have something in your hand already. Look at the back of that nutrition label where it says added sugar, and see how much added sugar is in it. And what you may not know, one more factoid before I get into the nitty gritty, but what you may not know is going to be recorded in grams, right? It's going to say, okay, maybe you have a soda in your hand. It might say that it's 64 grams. Okay. So that 64 grams, you then have to convert it. Y'all, they be having us do math. Okay. To 4 grams to 1 teaspoon, because most of you don't have a food scale and you're not weighing out your food. I don't really even have a food scale, right? I'm using a teaspoon and a tablespoon. So 4 grams is equal to 1 teaspoon. So that 4 grams, so that means in that 1 bottle of Coke, or oops, I hope they don't come for me, Big Food, but in that 1 bottle of soda, whatever your preference is, I'm a Georgia girl, so that's where my mind goes back. But whatever your preference is, that means that if it's 64 ounces or 70 ounces, you already have all the sugar, added sugar that's recommended for the day. And most people aren't going to stop with that. You're going to eat ketchup, you're going to have salad dressing. Even these healthy things can have added sugar in them to make it taste good. So this is why it's so important to be aware as you are trying to be free from added sugar, free from these sugar cravings. It's really important. So let's get to the nitty gritty, because y'all, we talked about food breakups last time with Dr. Keena, Dr. Angela. If you didn't watch that, watch it, because we talked about how you have to break up with certain foods. Now, Sugar and we had to break up. Okay. We went through a long separation for a while before I could add some more back to my life. And it really was because I had gotten to the point where I say I have a sweet tooth. I don't want to use the A word, because in the medical field that can be really controversial. Like, people talk about sugar addiction, and so far the research on it goes back and forth whether that is or isn't really true. But I can tell you from personal experience and from working with thousands of people, and many of which who have really had a strong drive, desire, relationship to go after sugar and seeking sugar, that word can be really applied for some people. Okay. So, but what I want to say is that it is possible to get control over it. And so, but knowing why and understanding why is important. So yes, I promise, sit with me. I'm gonna give you some tips of what you can do. Okay. I know everybody's like, give me 3 tips. What do I need to do? Substitute this. Give me a detox. Give me a cleanse. Y'all, chill out. We've been bouncing back and forth from cleanses, detox, diet cokes, diet sodas our whole life, right? And has it helped? Has it helped you maintain? So what I want to do is help you be free by understanding your why, because when you understand your why, you can say goodbye for good. I'm feeling a little poetic today. Yes, you can say goodbye for good. So let's talk about some of the body reasons. So what is going on physically in your body to cause you to crave sugar, to want to eat more sugar? Because a lot of people miss out on this. One is genetics. Yes, genes, y'all. So there have been certain genes that have been found that and this is in mice, not in humans yet, but certain genes, when they're in higher levels or expressed in higher levels, people crave more sugar. So there's something called the PRKAR2A gene, and this has been shown in mice. When that is active, people not only feel more anxious, they also have more. The mice not only feel more anxious, they also have more sugar cravings. So genetic as well. If you feel like it runs in your family, like grandma had a sweet tooth, they had a sweet tooth, it could be a reason. Now, another thing that runs in our families is certain diseases, right? I come from a family where type 2 diabetes runs in our family. The underlying cause of that is insulin resistance. So what you may know, we talk a lot about that hormone a lot here in Embrace You World. Insulin is a hormone that helps your body take sugar from the bloodstream and get into the parts of the body that needs it. So the key places that need glucose or sugar are going to be your brain, your muscles, boom, boom. I don't know why I just did that. And then also your liver, right? So those are going to be the key places for it. Now, when your body is not responding to insulin well, we call that insulin resistance or insulin insensitivity. And so what ends up happening is that even though you have a lot of sugar in your bloodstream, it's not able to get into where it needs to go. And so you, on the other hand, crave more sugar. Like if you're not seeing it, you're like, I need more. So you're going to want to eat more, even though there's more in your bloodstream. Meanwhile, the tissues that need it aren't getting it, and any of that excess sugar that's in the bloodstream is going to get stored as my bestie fat. Okay, it's going to get stored as that. So, and again, we need some fat in our body. That's why we keep it around. But too much of it can lead to can lead to over 200 diseases. And it also, a lot of that is linked to inflammation, and that inflammation itself can lead you to be craving more sugar as well. Other common things as in the body section that can cause it is, sleep deprivation. So if you're not getting enough sleep, do you remember how many hours is recommended per night of sleep? Everybody says 8, but it's 7 to 9 hours. And I always add, that is an average, right? Because I get these people that say, well, Dr. Sylvia, I only get 6 hours of sleep and I feel good. I feel good with 6.5. Well, again, you're waking up not feeling rested. And you're waking up feeling rested. You're not like you need a nap in the middle of the day. You don't feel tired. Then that may be true for you. But if you don't get enough sleep, that is going to increase your body's stress hormones. And over time, that leads to more insulin resistance and also is going to cause you to crave more sugar. And you may find it very easy. Like I know if I don't get enough sleep, the next day I can tell you that I'm going to have to battle with some sugar cravings. Stress, we're going to talk about it some more in the mental or the mind part of the causes. But stress is not just psychological in your brain. Stress is also physical. I just mentioned the stress hormone, cortisol, as well. And then another thing that we don't talk about enough is the chemical properties of sugar. So sugar hits a lot of the same receptors as some of our street pharmaceuticals, let's say, right? So, that it gives you that pleasure reward cycle. So I know a lot of times too, you're feeling kind of bad, you're feeling down emotionally, you take a quick pick me up with some chocolate, some candy, something really sweet or sugary. And that's because it's also causing a release of dopamine, which is the happy hormone, or the pleasure chemical. I shouldn't say it's not a hormone technically, it's a chemical, dopamine, serotonin in your brain. So that can also set up that cycle where it's not just emotional, but it's also biological, physiological in the body. You're getting released of this feedback that makes you want to eat more of these sugary food. Oh my gosh. So you're like, Dr. Sylvia, what can I do about this? Stay tuned. We're going to talk about it. So I just schooled you. So I want you to know it's not all in your mind, it's not all your willpower, though, but from a body perspective, there are certain things, genetic predisposition, family history of diseases, things like insulin resistance, sleep deprivation, high uncontrolled stress levels, that pleasure reward cycle. Another thing that I see a lot, and I don't think gets talked about enough, is that people who have a family history of certain of addiction or substance dependence, we should say. So maybe you have a family history of alcohol dependence, or you have a family history that was high in other form of drug dependence, or like cocaine, things like that. A lot of times, even for those people in those families, they may not be addicted to the same substance, but I see a lot of sugar use in certain people who are predisposed to it. So keep that in mind as well. And some might say, oh, it might be cultural. And also another thing that I see too is when people give up certain substances. So like, let's say they stop drinking, for instance. And remember, alcohol has a lot of sugar in it, most of it, and alcohol is processed in the body the same way as carbohydrates. So a lot of times we'll end up with substituting that substance they gave up, whether it be alcohol, whether it be cocaine, whether it be, those are usually kind of the two that I see a lot with marijuana, like will go to sugar used too. So keep that in mind. And it's more because your body's used to having something to stimulate it. So really, as we work towards healing that and giving you that freedom from sugar, we're going to talk about some of the replacements and things you can do. All right, but I want to go to the mind section. So we talked about body. Now we need to talk about the mind section. Okay, so mind, what are some of the triggers, so to speak, that cause you to have those sugar cravings from the mind? So one of the key things, as I mentioned, in the body is stress. So uncontrolled stress. Now, stress is not just biological or physiological, it is also going to be emotional or psychological. It's a perceived threat. Like, and many of us, we talk about the obesity epidemic, right? But we do not talk about the stress epidemic, especially in our people. Like, we are carrying around so much stress. And that's why I always say, like, weight is not just physical, like, but it's also emotional, right? As well, and spiritual. So having uncontrolled stress levels, like I said, it can affect what kind of foods you choose and lead to some of that emotional eating as well. We've talked a lot about that. So you're used to, okay, anytime I'm stressed, I just kind of go and I have a piece of chocolate, or I have some cake, or I have some potato chips or something, because they're going to help to release some of that stress, but also release some of those happy hormones that we talked about, happy neurochemicals that we talked about. So controlling your stress levels, and we'll talk about ways that we can do that. And we talked about them in some of the other episodes in more detail. So definitely check that out. But getting your stress under control is so important, because if not, you're chasing your tail. So that's why we talk about, like, oh, this sugar, right? Like freedom from sugar cravings. But if you're not addressing that root cause, you're going to say, okay, well, I'm going to trade for some fruit. I'm going to trade for some dark chocolate. But still, you're not meeting that emotional need that's there. Other thing is a lot of mental health conditions. So now when we move past the level of that, okay, this is high stress, but now you actually have a diagnosis of something like anxiety, depression, ADHD, attention deficit disorder, or you're having or having binge eating disorder, those type of things as well. Part of those can be associated with you having sweet cravings or having sugar cravings. And that is also because of the fact that, well, as we talked about, even though we put it in the mind category, the body mind connection is real. And so we've again seen certain genes are higher expressed when you have depression, anxiety, ADHD, and that can drive those sugar cravings as well. So making sure that you're addressing any mental health conditions is so important, because sometimes, especially in our community, there's a lot of stigma about talking about, I'm not crazy. There's a show here on blackdoctor.org goes all into the mind. Like, you're not crazy. Okay. So we got to get rid of this C word so that we can get the help that we need. I always say that there is nothing crazy about making a logical decision to seek help for your mental health. I'm a big believer in therapy. I've used it at various times in my life, and it has been a game changer, lifesaver. So please get the help that you need, because it's not just affecting you mentally, it's affecting you physically and weighing on you and driving you to eat more sugar. And then it sets up a vicious loop, right? Where they say, like, oh, is it causing it or not? I know a lot of times growing up with the ADHD, people were talking a lot, oh, eating too much sugar causes ADHD. That is not true, okay? But people with ADHD, because they get that dopamine hit from the sugar, may eat more of it. So that is really important as well to keep in mind, getting to the root cause of them. So we talked about body, we talked about mind. Now let's talk about spirit. All right. Y'all know I could go on. I've been a Christian leader since age 13, but I always have to say this caveat that when we talk about spirit, we're not talking about religion. We're talking about relationship, right? And particularly the 4 C's for spiritual wellness in Embrace You World are: number 1, connection with God, self, others, nature, your environment. Community. Do you have a place or a sense of belonging? A lot of us, we do a whole bunch of things, but do you have a place where you can just be yourself? I hope this is your place to be yourself. As you can see, I'm showing up as fully myself, because that's why I'm not wearing a white coat or anything. I'm just being Sylvia, Dr. Sylvia, here for you today. All right. So have a place, community, or then 2, 3, I got all caught up in community. I get passionate about community. Join our Facebook community, like be a part of the Embrace You community. But then is charity. You're giving. A lot of us give so much, but are you receiving too? So remember, charity has twofold: receiving. Like when I say you're beautiful, and do you say, oh, no, or do you receive that compliment? You're beautiful. So take the compliment, receive the goodness God's giving you, that people are giving you. Receive. It's okay, especially when you give so much. And then charity. I mean, last but not least, creativity. Okay. So creativity. Do you have a place where you can express your gifts and be, again, authentically you? That's part of embracing you, because and this is something I see a lot of people, because I work with a lot of top level professional women in the concierge arm of my practice. I see a lot of women who really, and men too, who are so focused on their profession, they don't have outlets for their gifts, or feel like their gifts and true expression of self are kind of being smothered, right? Smothered and not being expressed. So making sure you have that outlet. So spirit, I said a lot, but I'm always talking about this because I want to remind you about it, because again, in Western medicine, and again, I'm a classically trained MD, came up through, the regular system, and had to really learn how to merge all these things together. We do not talk about spiritual wellness enough. And I believe part of that lack of spiritual wellness is what I see personally, but I have also seen professionally, drives a lot of people that have turned to sugar, right? Because, and one of the key things, let me talk about the number 1 C, connection itself. Are you being sweet to yourself? I ask people, when people have a lot of sugar cravings, and we've gone through the body, we've gone through the mind, I've done all the lab work and done all the testing, all the things like that. I ask a simple question: are you being sweet to yourself? Or are you like me, a recovering perfectionist where nothing is ever good enough and you're always like, oh, you could have done this, but da, 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 da. When I was and when I work with a lot of perfectionists, when you're not being sweet to yourself, it's very easy to find something to suck on, piece of hard candy. Sometimes you just want that sweetness. So practice today being sweet to yourself. For spiritual wellness, I said all that stuff. You can check off the boxes. You can go through and look at. But really, one thing I want you to get out of that section is: are you being sweet to yourself? Are you being sweet to yourself? So last but not least, I promised you I would give you tips. Okay, y'all. The moment you've been waiting. Look, I need a drum roll. I need a drum roll. All right. So the moment you've been waiting for. All right, Dr. Sylvia, this is great. Thank you again for going through the why. Some of it went over my head. I feel you. I'm sorry, but I'm going to be me. You'll remember it later. You'll thank me later. I hope some of you thank me now. Thank me in the comments. I will receive the love, right? Like that. This is not like this crazy doctor's not telling me, what I want to know. Just tell me what I need to do. So number one, let me just give you a tip for each section. Okay, each section. So we went through the body causes, went through the mind causes, we went through the spirit things. So what can we do? Number one, let me just start with spirit. Remember, I asked you that question. What was the question? Literally just asked it 2 minutes ago. What was it? Are you being sweet to yourself? So for spirit, to reduce your sugar cravings, what I want you to do and what I encourage you to do is to embrace giving yourself one compliment a day. Ooh, doesn't that feel so good? Give yourself one compliment a day. Oh my gosh, I love your freckles. They are gorgeous. Look, I just gave myself a compliment. And doesn't that feel good? You feel that little dopamine hit in your brain. So give yourself a compliment a day. So that's what we're going to do for the spirit section of reducing or freedom from our sugar cravings. Okay. Now, if that wasn't your thing, like you're good about receiving compliments, giving compliments, and being sweet to yourself, then go through the other C's and come up with an action item around there. And that's something you can do right now. You can write down a compliment to yourself and be sweet to yourself, especially if you know that you're caught up in the negatives and not being sweet to yourself. All right, moving on, because time just flies when you're having fun. I have so much fun with y'all. Okay, so spirit we talked about. So the mind. Let's go to the mind. So what are we going to do that we can do today? Action tips to be free from these sugar cravings and reduce these sugar cravings. So what we can do is address, I'm going to say it, address your stress level. Okay, let's reduce our stress level. Now that's hard. You don't know what I'm going through. There's so many things I can't control in my life. How am I going to reduce stress? It's so heavy. I hear you. I hear you, sis. I hear you, bro. Stress is real. Look, God said, in this world you will have trouble. I know it's here. So we're going to have to deal with it. But our perspective is powerful, and we have tools to help us. One of the greatest tools in any moment when you're feeling overwhelmed, and I actually recommend this to all my incredible embracers that I work with one-on-one in the concierge program or in the group program, is to take some deep breaths every hour. I think I said that to y'all last time because I believe in the power of breathing, and it's so underutilized. Growing up, there was a very popular book, movie, soundtrack, Waiting to Exhale. And some of us still been waiting since Whitney came across that screen in 1996 to exhale. And it is time for us to exhale. Seriously, y'all, I'm not going to start singing Shoot, I promise. I kind of really want to, but I'm going to not sing Shoot. But I do want you to use that energy to breathe, okay? So let's do it together. I'm just going to show you very quickly some deep breathing can do to reduce your stress. Right now, do it with me. Do it every hour. I'm going to stop slapping this fan. All right. So want to take a deep breath in and hold it in your belly button. And then just slowly exhale as long as it takes to feel your shoulders fully droop. You can even bring the hands by your side if you need to, and repeat that at least 3 times. Doesn't that feel good? Did you just do that? And did you feel that relief and that release? So that's something simple you can do for stress relief. And that's for the stress category. And then sleep, trying to get that 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night. And I would be remiss in this category if I did not remind you to phone a friend. And I'm not just talking about your girlfriend or your boyfriend or your friend, whoever it is. I'm talking about your professional friends. So a therapist, okay? I always say the trifecta is every woman needs 3 things outside of their faith: a manicurist, a therapist, and a hairstylist. Okay, so get those 3 things in your life to keep your mind right, and you maybe even find more tools on your journey. I've discovered a lot for my mental health. All right, now what you expect every doctor to talk about and what you probably may have heard and not heard, I'm going to give you for the body section a few of the key things that I personally did to help me, and that I help use for my patients to help as you're releasing sugar and getting freedom from sugar cravings. Number one is please know your numbers. If you have not been checked in the last year by a healthcare professional, being your doctor, being your nurse practitioner, your physician assistant, your primary care clinician, please get checked, because we want to make sure that you do not have things like insulin resistance from either type 2 diabetes, from polycystic ovarian syndrome, so many other things that can cause you to physiologically be craving sugar, from obesity, okay? Like my profession. So we need to make sure that we know what is at the underlying reason and the underlying cause of it. And if you know you have a genetic history of different type of conditions that I've talked about, or a previous history of substance abuse, these are all things that can contribute. Sleep deprivation, sleep apnea. So get checked out, especially if it's been more than a year, especially if you've been struggling for 6 months. Like, people think you have to do this yourself. So please, and there's so many people, and not just primary care, if you have obesity, and obesity medicine specialists, I'm one. There's several of us that are boarded and have received additional training to treat with compassion and evidence-based. All right, now, finally, this is what you waited. Ready? I already gave you one drum roll, but let me tell you what you can do while you're weaning yourself off of it. So if you start with nothing else out of all this stuff I talked about, if you are drinking your sugar, I don't know why I did that. Hopefully they'll edit this out of this video. But if you're drinking your sugar, like, let's come up with a plan to cut down. So I am a former, not just like sweets, like candy. I used to really like candy, but also soda. I used to have like at least one soda a day. I'd never been an alcohol drinker. It hurts my stomach, but soda was my thing. So what I did for soda, and that's where most Americans are getting their sugar from, is I use sparkling water, half sparkling water and half fruit juice. People ask what kind of fruit juice? Real fruit juice, 100% fruit juice, not the stuff that got fake sugar in it, or, high fructose corn syrup, those kind of things, which is a whole nother thing. Get rid of all of that stuff. If you're gonna do sugar. So anyway, so half fruit juice, half sparkling water, and I gradually cut down on the juice until I could stand the taste of the sparkling water. And now, 8 years later, I love sparkling water. Like, I can tell the difference between a high-end brand versus the, cheap stuff. Like, I feel like I'm a sparkling water connoisseur, Anyway, to show, but I used to not like the taste. And of course, you're not going to like the taste when you're so used to having this much sugar on your tongue. So try adding half fruit juice, gradually cut down the fruit juice. Might take you about 6 months to get there, might take a little longer, but just take your time and do that. So that's one simple thing you can do. Also, similarly with alcohol, switching from those mixed drinks to doing something that doesn't have added sugar in it. So white wine, red wine, and then really remembering that if you're a man, it's less than 14 drinks a week. And then if you're a woman, it's less than 7 drinks a week. But really, if you're working on cutting down those sugar cravings, getting close to is great. So that is what I have for you. So I have left you with so much information. Okay. Now, what I need for you to do is, if we do nothing else, this is our embrace you mindset shift. This is our mindset shift. So let's go ahead and free our minds, and the rest will follow. So the mindset shift for today is switching from I can't eat sugar, I have to give up sugar, right? To I can make at least one, start with at least one change of reducing my sugar. And why do I say that? So we're going to release that extreme, because so many of you have tried these sugar detoxes, sugar cleanses, and then go right back, bounce right back, because you have not had this mindset shift of that. It's not just about I can never have it, because that's going to make you crave it and want it, but I can start with one thing. I can start by cutting, my sugar intake from 17 grams to 5 and getting the added amount. So that is what I want to leave you with for that mindset shift. And thank you again for watching Embrace You Hot Topics in Weight Loss. And this week, what I want each of you to do, start by writing in the chat, what's your number one takeaway? And what action step are you going to take in terms of giving up one thing with sugar, or reducing your sugar, being free from sugar in one particular item or category? Maybe it's a drink. Maybe you're going to try the sparkling water that I mentioned instead of soda, sparkling water with juice that I mentioned. Like, tell me what that is. Go ahead, tell me in the chat. But even better, if you will join us over in the Embrace You Facebook group, it's called Embrace You Happy, Healthy Weight and Loss Facts and Foodie Tips. So if you join us over in that community, we're going to keep having conversations just like this. Now, we actually are doing a body, mind, spirit cleanse right now. And the goal with that is really to help you be able to identify when your why for craving sugar, like your why behind all these things I talked about today. So is it coming from the body? Is it coming from the mind? Is it coming from the spirit? Are you being sweet to yourself? And then are you implementing these 3 tips that I talked about today? So alrighty, y'all, you know what you need to do? Join us over in the Facebook group. Make sure that you are implementing that one thing. You got 2 weeks to do it. I'm going to check back in with you on the next show and see you in the group in between then. But until then, remember, whatever you do, to always embrace you. It has been a pleasure. I'm Dr. Sylvia. I am your dual board certified integrative bariatrician specializing in body, mind, spirit, personalized weight loss and wellness, founder of Embrace You Weight and Wellness, and best-selling author. And look forward to connecting with all of you in the Facebook group and hearing that one tip. See you back in 2 weeks on Embrace You Hot Topics and Weight Loss. Boop, 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 boop. Shoot, 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 shoot. Okay, I'm done. Bye.